boom, magical, and let's go. Okay,
Let's do it.
so we want to look at the seven spirits of God. Let's see here. We go to let's go to Revelation 1. Revelation 1, verse 4.
The seven churches here, are those churches that existed back then, or is that like
Mhm.
future?
Yeah, those so that's kind of both. So they're literal churches that existed at the time, but the common belief is that those churches were doing certain things that were going to be indicative of churches in the future, to like categorize all churches within those seven categories, where there's going
Oh,
to be some that were doing good and most that are doing horrible. And then you even have some that are just not even real churches. So it's
hmm.
interesting. Okay, so verse 4, John, to the seven churches that are in Asia, grace to you and peace from the one who is, and who was, and who is to come, and from the seven spirits who are before his throne, and from Jesus Christ, the faithful witness, the firstborn of the dead, and the ruler of the kings of the earth, to him who loves us and released us from our sins by his blood. And he has made us to and he has made us to be a kingdom, priests to his God and Father. To him be glory and might forever and ever. Amen. Beautiful. So it mentions them right there. However, if we look back at Isaiah verse 2 in chapter 11, it tells us specifically, and the spirits of Yahweh will rest upon him, the spirit of wisdom, the spirit of understanding, the spirit of counsel and might, spirit of knowledge, and spirit of fear of Yahweh. So those would be the ones that are going to be kind of referenced throughout here. So following that, in Revelation 3:1, once again mentions them and says, and to the angel of the church in Sardis write, this is what he who has the seven spirits of God and the seven stars says. So he who has the seven spirits of God is just, this is further um, calling Jesus God, which is kind of a nifty. Let's see here. It says, I know your deeds, that you have a name, that you are alive, but you are dead. Wake up and strengthen the things that remain, which were about to die, for I have not found your deeds complete in the sight of my God. Dopeness. Which we can go through and just read the entirety of the letters to the churches, or we can just briefly go over this where it kind of touches on these, and then go back through in Isaiah, which actually is going to list them off and kind of evaluate them from there.
Oh, okay. Wait, so the spirits are like characteristics of Jesus then? It's not
Yes.
like we should have those when we become like believers and stuff.
Yeah, no, those would be like the fruits of the spirit, stuff like that.
Mhm.
But no, the spirits of Yahweh are um specifically things that God is going to grant to us. They're like the seven characteristics of God that He is going to like teach us or impress upon us type of things, but not necessarily things that like you become a believer and you have all of these spirits in that way. You don't have all these characteristics. Um, because quite literally it says that the seven spirits, going back into that list again, says the spirit of wisdom, spirit of understanding, of counsel, of might, of knowledge, of fear of Yahweh, and the spirits of Yahweh himself. So we
Hmm.
have the spirit of Yahweh that lives in us, that is the Holy Spirit.
Hmm.
And then the uh beginning of knowledge is the fear of the Lord. So fear of Yahweh. So both of those are kind of tied together, which is why I list them together. Spirit of counsel and might, and then spirit of wisdom and understanding. So they're all kind of flowing together within the same thing of it being like, if you look at King Solomon, for example, I think that's a good example of that, where God told Solomon, you can ask for anything you want. And Solomon didn't ask for money, riches, anything like that. He asked for wisdom.
Wisdom.
So that was kind of exemplifying that God's spirit was on him because he was desiring to have more of what God has according to his nature and his character.
Oh, cool.
Would um so I feel like there's at least a few times. I know definitely Hagar does it, but would the descriptions of like how Hagar says like he's the God who sees me or something along those lines,
Mhm.
uh
So those would
would
be
those
like
also
other names or titles of God.
okay.
But we can definitely go through and look at those too, because those are all actually really cool.
It's
But I know there's a handful of those ones at least.
There's a lot of them. But yeah, Hagar names God El Rohoi.
Roy. Hmm.
Um
I know
So
another like place where they use spirit in like characteristic way was how John the Baptist was Elijah to come. Like, and they say he
yes.
was Elijah in the spirit. Yeah,
Mhm.
like obviously not reincarnation because that's not biblical at all. But
Correct. Yeah,
hmm.
it was that he was a forerunner or a type of it, kind of like the two views on Melchizedek is that one is literally Jesus, and then one is that it is a type of Christ or a foreshadow of Jesus. It's just a man who has characteristics that are indicative of Jesus as a foreshadow to them. So same
Hmm.
kind of concept with Elijah, where he had common characteristics, where that type is going to be represented again, completely different person, but it's going to be a foreshadow of the fulfillment of Elijah,
Hmm.
if that makes sense,
Yeah, that's cool.
which is all confusing. Yeah, so the names, we have a lot of them. But we have Yahweh.
Hmm.
And then we have, which I disagree with this list. It refers to Elohim, but Elohim is not actually a name of God. So skipping that one. Um, we
What does
got
that one mean to? Elohim?
Elohim literally just means God, like lowercase g God in English.
Oh,
Um, we don't have a single word in English that is actually like the perfect translation of that. That word would be spiritual being to be like the most accurate. So it can be referenced to the spiritual being, being God, or it can be referenced to lesser spiritual beings like angels, or even false spiritual beings like demons and false gods, false Elohim.
hmm. Yeah. There's a part in the Bible, right, where he's like talking to he calls them gods, but he's like talking in that sense, not like they are gods, but like spiritual beings. In.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's in Psalm 82 where it says Elohim judges the Elohim,
Hmm.
which gets confusing. But you see, the
Yeah,
only actual Elohim that judges is going to be the Elohim. But
Yahweh.
you have yep, and then you have that just being a recharacterization of God judging the fallen angels. So that's what that whole category is about. So it's interesting. It confuses people because then people like Mormons will jump on it and be like, "Ah, see, there's multiple." It's like, nope, that's not what that says.
Try again.
But what was that?
Try again.
Try again. Oh, for the Mormons.
Yeah.
I like the video you did about the Shema. So I tried like learning it too.
What
The
you got? Let's hear it.
Oh, I don't know if my pronunciation's any good, but I know it's like Shema Israel Yahweh Eloheinu Yahweh Echad.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's really good, dude. Yeah,
Yeah.
Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. And then the way that it's often translated or actually spoken by Jews is they won't put Yahweh in there; they'll put Adonai.
Yeah.
So it's Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, which
Hmm.
I don't like as much. It's not as pretty. It
Hmm.
doesn't have as much,
Yeah.
So it's a
but
very
that's awesome.
throaty
It is a
way.
very throaty thing, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I could do I'm sure if I tried enough I probably could, but
You want to try it?
Right now? No. We're
Go
that's
for
not happening.
go for it. Just take advantage of all the allergies that we're having issues with right now and just
I don't have any allergies. I'm
dang it.
fine.
I have been just absolutely dying from them. But okay, so the next name on this list is El Elyon, which is God the Most High, El Shaddai, which is God Almighty, Adonai, which is Lord. So once again, I don't really think that that should be classified because Adonai would be basically Kyrios new in the New Testament in the Greek, which is why they continue that trend over. Um, so I wouldn't say it's a name of God, but it's definitely a title. Then we have Yahweh Yahir. That means the Lord will provide. And then we have Yahweh Nissi, which is the Lord is my banner. We have Yahweh Shalom, which is the Lord of peace. We have Yahweh Shabbat, which is the Lord of, where'd he go? The Lord of, no, sorry, Sabaoth. Yahweh Sabaoth, and that is the Lord of hosts. Then we have, gosh, I don't even know how to pronounce that word because it starts with a T and the second letter is an S. It's Yahweh Siddinkenu. Tsidkne.
I can't even
And
fathom that in
you.
my
Jeremiah 23:6 is where that's found, but it means the Lord of righteousness. But
Do you want me to look
Siddan,
it up in my book?
yes. Sidinkenu. Sidinkenu.
Thank you.
Sidinkenu. Sidinkenu.
Thank you.
I'm going to
Can you find it in like the
in the
King James
Strongs.
version?
Yeah, so let's see
Or
here.
yeah, if you
This
can use the Strong's. Yeah, because
let's see here. So Jeremiah 23:6. Um,
because the Strong's book specifically goes off of New King James, or not new, just King James version. So that's why I always end up having to revert back to King James just to find what word we're talking about.
okay.
I find that slightly annoying, but
Interesting. Um,
Did did the Israelites like around Moses' time would they call God Yahweh or were they saying Adonai out of like tradition also?
I think
Or
that
not?
they were calling him Yahweh, but it kind of depended because no one called him Yahweh until he revealed that name to Moses. And so after Moses, he was referring to God as Yahweh. So whenever he gave the Ten Commandments, it was always thus says Yahweh. Um, so,
And Yahweh is the Hebrew version of I am, right?
yes, sir.
Hmm.
Yeah, so Yahweh means I am, but in Exodus 3:14, the actual words there, I'll pull that up in a second. It's Hayah. Um, I know it sounds like that. Let me find this first, and then I'll jump to that real quick. Um, is this correct in where it's telling me to look?
either that or if you can find the number of it.
Uh, well, I'm looking for. There we go. Okay. Almost there. Interlinear. Okay, so this just has it as Sadek. So that's better. That is H6664. And so yeah, so that would be like Melchizedek. That's the same word there, but I don't know why where I'm looking it up here, it decided that it wants to transliterate it with T's and like 18 extra consonants. But yeah, so H6664, Sedech, righteousness. So Melchizedek.
Oh, cool.
So same word there, but them throwing T's in there just threw me off.
Well, I mean, when you add extra things that don't need to be there.
I know. I hate it.
Hmm.
Oh gosh, that's a long one. Um, well, it's a lot to say, but it's technically only got 4 sections. I'll show you what I see. So it starts up here and it goes all the way down and goes up to here and goes down to here.
All of that on Sedek.
Yeah, the 6664.
Wow. Yeah, that's
So,
exhaustive.
yep. So, yeah. Told you
Okay,
need to get the
so
book.
I know I need to get. I just haven't yet. Trying to. But yeah, so the exact phrase that God uses is Hayach Eser Haya. So it is that is the I am that I am. But if you go just by the I am, then it's going to be in Exodus 3 later on, as God reveals that, he reveals it to be Yahweh as the YHVH, the Yod He Vahe.
Hmm.
means
And
righteousness.
how'd they get Jehovah from that? Would uh Jehovah, is that like wrong? Like the
It's not wrong. It's just using a J instead of a Y sound. Um, so like the original like the shift of that was into Yehovah, and then because of the transliteration into English where we started using J's for stuff, including Jesus, that's how we got Jehovah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Also can be referred to as a relational world.
What can be?
The second section, it can be referred to as a relational world as well. That's interesting. But there's just a lot there. So I just end up reading the whole thing.
To unpack there.
There's a lot
Huh?
there.
Yeah.
That was a lot.
And
That
I'm
was
also
pages.
dyslexic, so I'd probably end up like stopping a couple times because I can't figure out what something says.
Huh.
Dyslexic and reading,
Bad combo.
yeah.
Hmm.
Especially when things like sentences make sense, don't get me wrong, but it just seems so odd sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Just the layout of the sentences sometimes just are really odd, and because it's not how English would traditionally be.
Yes.
And so then I'm just like, I have to read this like 10 or 15 times before I'm like, am I understanding this correctly?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel
I
like
have
I
to
didn't
do that, and
expect.
I'm not dyslexic.
Yeah.
I had to help a fellow dyslexic person today because she was, I told you I work in banking.
Yeah.
Um, and she was reading something as um, like an or unauthorized person instead of an authorized person. So she was
Oh,
like
that's a big
combining the
difference.
two words. Yeah.
Oh.
I'm like, I was so confused because originally she read it to me. I'm like, this makes no sense. Like, I need to see this. And then I figured it out and I stopped her for a minute. I'm like, my dear, there's no N in the word. You're putting the two words together.
Oh, that's awesome.
When
That's
she looked
horrible,
at it
but
again, she's like,
hilarious.
oh my gosh, thank you. I was so confused. Like, I was too.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay,
Can't say
let's see
I haven't
here.
done it though.
You do what?
Can't say I haven't done it though.
Yeah, no, I guess yeah. All right, so let's see here. Okay, so let's see here. We were at the El Sadeh, which now I know how to pronounce whenever there's no T's in there, so that's awesome. Then we have Yahweh Rahoy, which is the Lord is my shepherd, and that's in Psalm 23, which is awesome. Um, no, that's not how you pronounce that. That would be Rohi, not Rahoy. That would be Rohi. Yahweh Rohi, the Lord is my shepherd. That's sick. Rohi, that's awesome. Psalm 23. Going into that real quick. Interlinear there. Yeah, I want to learn how to pronounce this word because what the list is giving me as pronunciations doesn't look right ever. Ra'ah. So Ra'ah.
Uh-uh.
Yeah, Ra or Yahweh Ra'ah.
Yahweh Ra'ah. For the Lord is my shepherd, right?
Yeah,
Or Yahweh is my shepherd. Is that how
yeah,
it says in the LSB?
yeah.
That
The LSB. Actually, I pulled up the LSB literally on the screen that I'm on. I just have to close out the interlinear so I can see it. Yes, it says Yahweh is my shepherd, I shall not want.
oh awesome.
And so then that would be Yahweh Ra'ah.
Yahweh
That's
Ra'ah.
let's just learn how to say that entire sentence real quick. That's sick. So we have Yahweh Ra'ah Hasir
Sir.
Hasir Lo Hasir. Yeah, so it's Yahweh Ra'ah Hasir Lo Hasir.
Yahweh Raha Aser Lo Aser.
Yeah.
That hmm. And that's for the Yahweh is my shepherd, and I shall not want.
Yes.
Hmm.
Awesome. Yahweh Ra'ah Raha
Yahweh Yaha
Hasir Lo Hasir.
Haser Lo Haser.
So I shall and want are the exact same word.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah. Haser. Cool. I'm learning stuff.
Hey, this one's kind of fun. We're just bouncing around like all over the
Yeah,
Bible.
I know.
Hmm. This one is a lot shorter, so I'm willing to read it.
Deal.
Raha, also verb, means to associate with. This word appears in Proverbs 22:4. Make no friendship with an angry man, with and with a furious man, thus shall not go. Just a little bit of extra. There's a lot of
In
ways it was translated though.
in what
Mm,
verse did that cite?
Proverbs 22:24.
Very interesting. How is that the same word?
Don't ask me. I'm just
I get you. Okay, so
let me make sure I didn't see it, like I didn't look it up wrong.
nope,
Rahab.
nope, you did
It's
that correct.
R-A-A-H, right? R-A-A.
Um, yeah, it's R-A, and then A with a different accent over the top that looks like little squiggle
Yeah.
dash. But yeah, so the Hebrew for that, um, do not befriend a man of anger and do not come along with a man of great wrath. The Hebrew there is Raha al Raha, and then et Baal, ap et
This is
bo.
being used as a verb there.
Interesting.
Yeah. Rahab
So
as a verb means to associate with.
it uses it as do and associate in the same word. So it's Ra'a al Raha. Very weird. Hmm.
It's been translated into various things.
Yeah,
Um,
because it says biblical usage. We have to pastor, tend, graze, feed, shepherd, a ruler, a teacher, a people, a flock, a herdsman, and then cows, sheep, or no, to feed and graze of cows or sheep. Also in reference to idolaters, and then it's also for associating with, comparing to, and to be a special friend. So
sharing
weird.
house, wander, and waste.
It's so fun.
That's a very odd word.
It's a really weird word that can be used for that many things.
Raha.
So I'm going to start
Where,
laughing now.
where did you see that it was for idolaters?
Raha.
Let me pull it back up.
'Cause I don't have idolaters on mine.
Oh no. Blue Letter Bible has more than yours?
Well, I have
You have it as H74 H7462?
yeah.
Yeah. So in the biblical usage here, under it is as in categories of one and then part one, part one, part one. But then going down there, there is part one, part two, and then in there, there's part one, part two. I can't turn it around and show you, but it says to
I
feed
have Blue
and
Letter Bible. I could look
graze.
it up.
It says to feed and graze that can be used one of cows, sheep, etc., which is literal, and then two of idolaters, Israel as a flock, figurative.
Mine says to rule, so like by extensions to associate with as a friend kind of a thing.
Mhm.
Feed, shepherd, pastor, herdman, keep, compassion, broken, company, devour, eat, entreat, entreat. I don't entreat. I don't know how the word is. And then it has miscellaneous, like MISC. Use as a friend, make friendship with, plus sharing house, wander, and waste.
Interesting. It's used a lot.
Yeah.
It's here. It's used 164 times in 139 verses.
Mine says 173.
Ooh, weird. Why is there a distinction in that? That's a
I wonder
nine. That's nine verses different. Is
I
yours
wonder
including the Apocrypha?
what is that?
Those are like the seven extra books that Catholics have in their Bible. because within those seven extra books, it would make sense if there's nine extra verses, but this is going off of the LSB. Um,
Well, this does go off of King James version.
and King James Version does have a version that has the Apocrypha.
I don't
Well,
know
that's
if it
the
specifies which version it goes off of.
yeah. Let me pull up a Catholic version and see if it changes.
The Apocrypha is part of the Old Testament, right? It's not well, not part of it, but that's where they include it into, right?
Yes, yeah, they add the seven books in the Old Testament, and none of these are. That's kind of relieving. None of these are Catholic Bibles in the Blue Letter Bible. That's cool.
Yeah.
At least that I'm aware of, because some of these are also in Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish.
Well,
I know.
this thing says uh
A lot of Spanish people are Catholic.
Exactly.
Mhm.
it says the Strongs can be used with other Bible translations, including NASB, NARSB, NIV, ESV, uh, New King James. I find that really weird, in my personal opinion, because you kind of need to know the exact word it's talking about to find it, and
Which
they all kind of.
they're all translated off of the same um well, kind of. The King James was translated off of the Textus Receptus, while the other ones are translated off of like the Masoretic texts. So it's slightly different, but basically still the same. There's going to be like minor textual variants between the two, but
Well, I
they're
get
pretty much
that,
the same.
but you have to have the exact word to be able to find what you're looking for. You can't just go to the word
Oh, I
and
get what you're
think,
saying.
because like there's prayers, prayed, and like I don't know, like every extra letter will send you to a different direction.
Yeah, okay.
So,
Yeah, that seems like they should create more options for this then.
I just want to show you. Oh yeah, huh. I'll show you father because there was a few for father too. Um, so father starts here. It's just father. Um, there's a lot of fathers in the Bible. One second, and then there's fatherless. Um, oh, fatherless down here, and then fathers.
My goodness, that's a lot.
Fathers with an apostrophe specifically, and then there's ones without apostrophes. Like
Interesting.
it's just obnoxious. I don't know if I haven't taken the time to see if like it's a different word specifically, but
Okay.
when I'm looking through like trying to find the like the verse that it's used in, because one more time, sorry, because like fathers, like it will say the sentence and then what verse it's in and then where to find it. And so when I'm looking and like I have the word that is in the New King James version and I go to that word and it's not there, I'm like, well, where am I looking now?
Yeah. That's tricky.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I would, if you do choose to get the book, because it does have like more exhaustive stuff, that's fine. But I definitely would use like the Blue Letter Bible to find the number versus
And then go through it.
Yeah. It's probably just going to be easier that way.
That's probably exactly what I'll do. But let's see here. Next one on the list. It has this at number 12. It is Yahweh Shema, which is not Shema like Shema Yisrael. It's Sham Ah.
Shama, like with
But
an
then it is Shammah. So Shah Ma.
Shama.
And that means the Lord is there. And then that we get from Ezekiel 48:35, and that word has it there only as Sham, and then that just means there, from there, thence, thither, then.
Hither
And
is a
then
fun
finally
word.
what was that?
Hither is a fun word.
Thither?
Mhm.
Thither?
Hither.
Oh yeah, no, this is thither.
Oh, thither. Oh, never mind.
Exactly. This one,
Heard.
yeah, no, not hither is a fun word. Thither is like how I would imagine Mike Tyson talking about these, like thither, but this is thither after verbs of motion is what it says.
I was thinking about Mike Tyson, but I didn't want to say Panther Philly.
And then the other one we have is El Rohoi, which is the God who sees me, Genesis 16:13. But then from there in the New Testament, it just has just the kind of similar things where it's not names, but it's just terms used to associate God. So it has Theos, Kyrios, as Pater, and Abba. So Theos, God, Kyrios, Lord, Pater, Father, and Abba is Father.
Okay. I'm pretty sure you've seen the puppet guy, Dixie, I think.
Thanks. Mhm.
Yeah. Um he says it's like daddy.
Oh yeah, he said that he calls him daddy, like as like father, you know? Like, he doesn't say it in like a rude way, I'm sure.
No.
But
For
yeah.
which one?
For
For
Abba.
just, well, when he refers to God, he says daddy, I think.
Okay, so I wouldn't say it's I would never say that's daddy. But, but yeah, so Abba is the that's the Aramaic intimate form. So if you were to that would be I would never say that daddy is the intimate form. I would never call my father that. But um
I'm kind of curious now how it's stated in here.
so
Sorry.
let's see
When
here.
you said Abba, it just immediately went into my head.
That's amazing. But yeah, so we have Mark 14, 36 and Romans 8:15 that both use Abba. So let's go check them out and let's try to see if that's I'll just ask ChatGPT. We'll just cheat. Does Abba mean daddy? I'm gonna send Dinks the clip of this. It's gonna be great. Um
Mark 14, what?
It says it's so ChatGPT going through the Aramaic actually says it's an intimate term. It's more intimate, or it is more intimate than father, but it's not as informal or childish as daddy.
Hmm.
So it's I don't think that we have an English word that actually equivalates father in a more intimate capacity than father. Um, what is most intimate term? Which or Father. this, this is why ChatGPT is funny.
What does it say?
So it um, says Abba equals dear father or my father, not best translated as daddy. But then I said, what is the most intimate term in English for father? And it says daddy. So it's like,
Oh.
so Dinks might be right on this. Um, gosh, I don't want him to be. That's so weird. Daddy has been so destroyed in our culture.
Oh,
Yeah.
for real. It was what? Mark what? 14.
1436. Scroll back to it.
It's the same father that I sent you in our conversation.
Oh, okay.
3962.
And then it had Matthew 6:9 for the Our Father as it's going into Pater.
You too.
When did Dinks put out that video?
A little while back. Like maybe closer to a year ago.
Really?
I remember random things. Don't mind me.
Okay. Because yeah, I watch a good amount of his stuff, but at the same time, I never go scrolling. So it's kind of like the only time I see videos that other people make is like while I have a video uploading, that's when I'll be scrolling.
Yeah, I go scrolling. Don't mind me.
There's
I do
nothing
not
wrong with it.
only read the Bible, so it's weird.
You what?
I might be mistaken, but I think he said that he calls God just daddy in general, like when
In
like father,
general.
like when we pray, we're like, oh dear Heavenly Father, you
Mhm.
know. So I think I think I saw a video where he was praying and he said daddy and then he stopped and he's like, that's what I call him. And then he like continued. I think I don't I know I've heard him call him that, but I don't know if it's the same video Natasha's talking about.
I saw one where he explained it.
Okay.
So I think it might have been after that one, probably because of more comments.
Maybe.
That is really funny. I want to talk to him about that.
It just threw me for a loop because
Yeah.
I'm like, I've never heard that.
Let's see if we search Daddy in Blue Letter Bible. No results. Winning, kind of. But yeah, so it's saying that in a biblical parallel, the closest thing would be literally saying "Dear Father," um, rather than actually saying "Daddy." It says that the richness of the word Abba cannot actually be described correctly with "Daddy." So at least that's better. But
That's really cool about other languages. There's not, or they have like certain words for certain things that others might not. It's really
yeah,
cool.
that's the tricky part. That's where like translation can get tricky or difficult, and that's why like us having God was in judging the gods gets confusing for people. Awesome.
My phone is
Okay,
dying.
plug it in.
I did.
All right, let's see here. Okay, so those were the names of God. That was a tangent. What is the next thing that we're supposed to be going over? Let's go
Can I
over the
just say
fruits.
something real
Yes.
quickly? I
Yeah.
think it's I think it's like after like going through all that, I think it's kind of crazy for people to say that like it matters. Like there's some people that think that you have to refer to Jesus as his actual name. They think it's Yeshua, but really it's Yesha. But how they're like, oh well, that's not his name, so you're not praying to him or something. But right here it shows us that like all these people are giving him names, but they mean him. They're referring to like Yahweh.
Exactly.
So I think that's it's like read, bro. You'll see it for yourself.
Exactly, because God is not picky on what we call him as long
Hmm.
as we're talking to him.
Yeah.
So like if you're
It's not disrespectful.
yeah, like if you're say for example you have a Mormon who is praying to their God and they're referring to their God as Yeshua. It's like just because they're trying to use the Hebrew name, their God is still a fake God. They're not actually worshiping the Jesus of the Bible. They're worshiping a fictitious, blasphemous version of him. So it's like regardless, they're saying the name, but they're not praying to God. So
Yeah. And then that would be work. Like, oh, you have to learn a different language to even be able to talk about them. Like that's work, and that's not.
yeah, I just don't I don't understand the people that get so uppity about that, but they just want to be fancy. They just want to be like, look how fancy I am. I am using the terms. It's
Well,
kind of
and
like if you have what was that?
some people also can't use their mouth slash throat the way other people can.
Mhm.
Like I struggle. I have like a weird thing. I can roll some of my letters, like my THs, I roll for whatever reason, but I can't roll my R's. Don't ask me.
It's
When
easier.
I'm
You just
thinking
pull the
about
tongue
it,
back.
I huh?
That's easier. You just pull the tongue back further in the mouth for the R's.
I can't do it though. I can't do it. Took Spanish, epically failed Spanish. I'm pretty sure she passed me out of grace.
That's hilarious.
Anyway, but like some people can't use their mouth the way one culture can versus another. Is
Yes.
primarily what I'm getting after. And just because you can't do something or you don't know how to do something doesn't mean you're not talking to or about that
Mhm.
person or God.
And there's a specific point in I can't remember where it is. It might be in Kings or is it in Judges? Where they're using a certain word as like a password phrase terminology because the surrounding people with their accent they were unable to pronounce the word.
Mhm.
Um,
I just went through Judges. I don't really recall that. There was a couple of chapters I missed, but
yeah, it might not be Judges. It is Judges. Uh,
then it was one of the chapters I missed.
yeah. So center this on the screen. Okay, so Judges 12 verses 5 to 6. It says, and the Gileadites seized the fords of the Jordan opposite Ephraim. And it happened when any of the fugitives of Ephraim said, let me cross over, the men of Gilead would say to him, are you an Ephraimite? If he said no, then they would say to him, please say Shibboleth. And he would say Sibboleth, for he could not make it clear. And then they seized him and slaughtered him at the fords of the Jordan. Thus 42,000 of Ephraim fell at that time. So these people, these fugitives, were trying to flee, move, transport, whatever, and they'd have them say Shibboleth. They were unable to pronounce that, and they would say Sibboleth, and they would know that they couldn't pronounce the sh.
Oh.
So Judges 12. Awesome.
Haven't got to that part yet.
And let's
So
hear is, and in that word, it says that the Hebrew word meaning is unclear. And it says that it's meaning an ear or an ear of grain or a streaming flowing water.
Hmm.
Those are two very different things.
Hmm. But
Maybe.
apparently their very distinct dialect could not pronounce the so like a shem.
Hmm. That'd be if
That's
like
so
we're
cool.
like oh like we make up a word with like the rolling of the tongue and we're like oh we'll see who can pronounce it or not, you
Yeah, we'll make a passcode to enter into these Bible studies.
know.
We'll have the word be um ra. What you got, Natasha?
When I start thinking about it, I can't do it. Rah, there we go.
Ra.
All right, that wasn't bad.
Well, that's awesome. Okay, so let me scroll back here. Let's go over the fruits of the Spirit.
Yes.
So these are from Galatians 5:22 to 23. It
Galatians
says,
after, yeah, got
yeah,
it.
chapter 5:22 and 23. It says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things there is no law. This is one of the interesting things where you have at kind of like the modern over-the-top charismatic Pentecostal churches, you'll have people who are claiming that they have the gifts of the spirits and the fruits of the spirits, using these terms practically interchangeably while they're spazzing out on the ground, freaking out, looking like they're having a seizure. Does that seem indicative of self-control? Aha. Exactly. Those people are doing something that's just absolutely in opposition to what the Bible teaches happens when you have the Spirit living in you.
Well, and when you also have the gifts of the Spirit, at least especially the ones that, like the gift of tongue,
Yes.
pretty sure doesn't Paul specify like there would need to be somebody to understand?
Yes.
It's not
He
just
was
I
saying that they're,
randomly know a random language, but it's literally like you're speaking your own language, but they're hearing it as their language.
yes. Yeah. So the way that Acts chapter 2 describes it is everyone was hearing it in their own language. But Paul
But
says that whenever someone is speaking in tongues, that there should only be one person doing it at a time, and there should also be there someone to interpret it. So if you have multiple people who are speaking at once while someone is speaking in tongues, so if I'm speaking in English to Joseph, Joseph only speaks Spanish in this situation. And then Natasha starts talking with me, but she's speaking in normal English that's not translating into your head through this gift. That's going to be very confusing. Or if, no, I guess that would be the best analogy I could give for that one. Would be if you have just multiple people talking, but you're only hearing it through one mouth, not through multiple. So then that'd just be a lot of people talking at once.
Oh wow.
But it says that the gifts says that there's 9 listed in the Bible. We have words of wisdom, words of knowledge, faith, gifts of healing, uh, workings of miracles, prophecies, distinguishing of spirits, tongues, and the interpretation of tongues.
Could the gift of faith also kind of go towards like Calvinism, like where God chooses who he saves?
Yeah, yeah. So that's like one of the things that's debated a lot. Like in Ephesians 2:8 and 9, it says, "For by grace have you been saved through faith, and it's not of yourselves; it is the gift of God." So a lot of people will interpret that as saying that the faith and the grace are both the gift of God. That whenever you which I understand the argument on it. I just don't understand Greek well enough to actually be able to be like, that's correct. But they're saying that the actual structuring of the grammar would be indicative that it is speaking of that as a singular structure that is being referred to as the gift,
Hmm.
which again, don't speak Greek well enough to know whether or not that's accurate. Um,
What is
the way
your
that I've always read that would be for by grace, grace is the gift. You've been saved through faith.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
But just the way that that is structured apparently is slightly different. So I never use that as an argument for Calvinism because I don't know if it's a good one. Um,
Yeah.
but that is definitely one of the common uh, kind of like interpretations of that translation.
Hmm. So when Jesus uses the example of the tree that wasn't bearing any fruit, you know how he just destroys it?
Yes,
Um
the
in
fig
that
tree.
parable, yeah, in that parable, was he referring to these fruits, or it's more like the works, not for salvation, but like just to clarify, not salvation, not for salvation, but because you're saved. Is he talking about like those works, or that you're not like,
I think that would
like
be more
hypocrisy?
in line with the gifts from Galatians 5. So, for example, if you have someone who is claiming to be a Christian, but they are not self-controlled, they're not gentle, they're not faithful, they're not being kind, they're not being good, they're not showing any patience, they're not peaceful, they're not joyous, and they're not loving, all of those would be like, oh no, you're AOC. And that would be a very different thing.
yeah, sometimes I think about that and I wonder, or not, I don't, not that I'm like doubting that I'm saved, but sometimes I'm like I should feel joyous, right? But I don't know, I don't feel like joyous all the time, you know? Or
Mhm.
sometimes like sometimes I will lose my patience and stuff. Like sometimes like I know we're not perfect and we're gonna fail, but is that that's for these fruits, right? Like,
Yes.
or
But it's not saying that you need to have all of them all the time, every day. It's like I lose my patience constantly,
hmm,
but I don't react badly when I do.
hmm,
Most of the time, I just give the thumbs up emoji and then walk away from it. But yeah, it's the same kind of concept with that, where it's like if you're consistently failing in all of those areas, then that would be indicative that you're not displaying any fruits. So if someone is just like constantly hateful to everyone that they see, that would be a good indication of it. But um, make sure you understand the difference between happiness and joy,
hmm.
because joy is a deep-rooted thing that is not experienced emotionally. Joy is like the kind of like the comfort of knowing like that if I had some ISIS dude who was actively sawing off my head right now, I wouldn't have fear because I have an indwelt joy knowing that I'm about to see God. Like my joy is knowing that God has redeemed me, God has saved me, and God has adopted me into his family. So it's not like oh, I feel happy all the time. That means I'm Christian. It's not at all like that. It's that you have joy, not necessarily happiness. And happiness can sometimes be a result of the joy. It's like it should make you happy to be like, yeah, God saved me. That's amazing. But at the same time, it's not what it's referring to there.
But
Okay.
also,
I guess I had that like a little like mixed up. I guess I thought happiness meant joyous. Because I'm
In
like,
English, we often try to use them synonymously, but they do mean very different things.
hmm, okay, yeah, thanks a lot. I think I needed to hear that because
Of course. Yeah, if you're sad, that doesn't mean you're not Christian. It just means like, hey, life is hard. Not everything is going to be happy all the time.
yeah,
Um,
I guess I'm scared that, or I worry that God will like think that I'm being like ungrateful for the good things I do have, but I mean, I know God knows what I'm feeling probably more than I do, or definitely more
Exactly.
than I. So yeah, I guess just gotta trust him, you know.
Yeah. And that's what everything comes down to is you trust God above anything else. Because
Hmm.
he knows better. And all of these things that we're supposed to be doing, these are basically the fruits are like the works of God, essentially, where God working in you is what's making you joyous. It's what's making you loving. It's what's making you peaceful. It's what's making you patient. All of these things are a direct result of God living in you. So it's not necessarily like, hey, if you don't do these things, you're not going to be saved. It's just saying like, hey, a saved person is going to grow in all of these areas perpetually throughout their entire life. And that is part of sanctification. The sanctification, we focus on it as being like the repenting, turning from, forsaking your sins, and trying to live a life more indicative of Jesus. But at the same time, sanctification is also these things where you are becoming more loving, you're becoming more peaceful, more joyous, more patient, more kind. You're becoming more like Jesus. And so if you
Yeah.
picture Jesus as just the perfect man, he is going to be embodying all nine of these all the time. And so our goal is to try to be more like him. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like the what would Jesus do?
Yeah. But the better
Um,
version of that is not what would Jesus do, it's what did Jesus do?
Did Jesus do? I like that.
something else to kind of think about. But the Bible doesn't really, I don't want to say it doesn't like talk about happiness, but whenever we talk, whenever they talk about like people, it doesn't generally say like, oh, they're very happy, oh, they're very sad, kind of a thing. It just tells us the situation at face value. But then the times that it does talk about like what makes us happy, what makes us glad is always, from what I've read, at least in the Old Testament, it's always ends up being like, that's when we do evil, kind of a thing.
That's a good way to
But
look at it.
not saying that we can't be happy with what we
Yes,
do, but just being mindful that what makes us happy isn't always good.
correct.
Yeah.
And so be mindful of why am I getting joy out of this? Am I getting joy out of this because of God, or am I getting joy out of this because of my flesh?
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's a very, very good distinction on that. There's
Hmm.
a video I made a long time ago. I'm pretty sure it's lost because this was prior to TikTok banning me. Um, but in the video, it was just about how to be happy biblically. And the primary thing that I said in there is if you want to be happy, stop trying to be happy. Like, stop being selfish, stop focusing on you, stop making your happiness your life goal. So, whenever people try to make happiness like the purpose of life is to be happy, you're going to be just perpetually sad without joy and live an absolutely selfish life void of meaning.
Hmm.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
But also remember, we all go through those times. I mean, especially like David wrote a lot of
Sad Psalms.
stuff, really hard stuff.
Mm-hmm. David was super depressed.
Yeah. Paul wasn't exactly wanting to stay alive.
Oh yeah.
Nope.
And
He wrote a little death wish.
yeah. And
The
then
saddest.
Job, I mean, he was miserable.
Mm-hmm. Job was saying that he wished he was never born.
Hmm.
And but I would be very surprised if they weren't happy in their life at one point, kind of a thing, or happy with kind of a thing. So it's just sometimes it's just seasons.
Yes.
Hmm. Yeah. Thank you guys.
Oh yeah. Let's see here. I want to go to Philippians chapter 1. I want to read Paul's death wish. I can actually turn to it.
It's right behind Galatians.
Mhm. So, starting in verse 21, it says, "For me to live is Christ, and to die is gain. But if I am to live on in the flesh, this will mean fruitful labor for me, and I do not know what I will choose. But I'm hard pressed between the two, having the desire to depart and be with Christ, for that is very much better. Yet to remain on in the flesh is more necessary for your sake. And convinced of this, I know that I will remain and continue with you all for your progress and joy in the faith, so that your reason for boasting may abound in Christ Jesus in me through my coming to you again. Only live your lives in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ, so that whether I come and see you or remain absent, I will hear about your circumstances, that you are standing firm in one spirit, with one mind, contending together for the faith of the gospel." So in that, it's just the entire thing. It's him saying, "I'd rather die. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be here. I want to go be with Jesus. But for your sake, that's that's why I'm here. I don't want to be here, but for you, I'll stay." It's awesome. But you have to look at that in the context, though, where Paul potentially died multiple times. That was just brutal. All right. Now let's see here. What next are we looking at? Kind of going through the list of these right now.
The list of what?
Kind of the things
Yeah.
that we've been bouncing through all of them.
Fair enough.
So we did the spiritual gifts. We did the seven spirits of God. We did the fruits of the spirit. Let's get one more subject in here. What you'll want to talk about.
Hmm. What are you gonna name this video? There's like a lot to
I don't think I'm going to name it. I think it's just going to be
Bible
just going to
study.
be yeah, it's just going to be April 11th Bible study. I have no idea what we're talking about in this.
Do you have an idea, Joseph?
let me see. Should we go through the suggestions in the chat? Or we already did all of those?
Let's see here.
Oh,
She also has prayer,
Prayer.
other religions, and Samson.
Hmm.
Is there any
Uh,
weird other religions that you guys have questions on?
uh, I don't know if like if we can even say a lot about this one because it's just I'm sorry, but it's just stupid. You know the Hebrew Israelites, they're like the
Mhm.
African that they're like, oh no, we are the Israelites, you know, and
Mhm.
they won't even talk to white people or let them like talk. I think
Yeah,
that one's crazy. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to be making a video on that in the next couple days, just because I've had a lot of requests on it. But
Yeah.
yeah, they're
We haven't.
absolutely insane.
Yeah.
The every single thing that you'll ever see them try to use from the Bible as an argument is exclusively out of context, where they're trying to apply it to something that happened uh what 15, 1700 years after the fact, and they're trying to like equate certain things and pull things out of context. um it's just they're ridiculous. But the number one thing that's wrong with that is whenever God says that partiality is an abomination to Yahweh. they're 100% going purely based on race, which is partiality. So whether that's to be a black supremacist or a white supremacist, both are just as evil and disgusting. It's trying to claim that someone's pigment is indicative of something about them. Specifically for them, it's that God only loves black people and God will only save black people because black people are Jews. But they're not at all. It's a different thing. That's why in the Bible you have it talking about Ethiopians in the book of, I think that's in the Ecclesiastes or in Proverbs, but Solomon is talking about how, um, oh gosh, what is that? I don't want to quote this wrong. Um,
The only reason I bring up that one's because you haven't done a video on those ones yet.
yeah, I'm gonna. There's a So like some of the videos that I'm doing is going through like responding to it where I have like the other video of the person and then going through that way. I want to find a good video of one of the Black Hebrew Israelites actually trying to argue his religion, and then I want to take that video and dismantle it. So that's why I haven't done it yet. I haven't found a good enough video to do that. So if you guys come across them, send them to me because
Yeah,
I'm trying to find a good one for that instead of just explaining like, hey, they're racist. I would like to actually go systematically on the verses that they're trying to claim and shut them down with it that way.
yeah. Hmm.
Found my TikTok to be pretty narrow on
Yeah,
what Christian content I see.
that's good though.
Well,
Okay,
because
so no,
I
what was
was
that?
getting like at first I was getting like Enoch stuff. I'm like, no, thank you.
Mm, there's a couple like they're actually Christians, but like I don't even know their names. I think I think Ashley Hayes is one of them, and then there's like Kate Podge or something. I'm not sure what her full name on there is, but they're Christians and they're both like female Bible, whatever you want to refer to this as, influencers, but they only focus on flat Earth and rapture, and it's just like it's so disappointing.
Like, what about the gospel?
Exactly, they never once touch on it. Like both of them follow me on TikTok, and like I can't. It's so bad. I don't want their stuff coming up in my feed because it's always just it's like if you don't believe the earth is flat, then God doesn't love you. It's like no, which that's not verbatim what they've said, but it's like there's
Yeah.
one who said that if you deny the earth is flat, then you deny the Bible, and it's just kind of like no. Okay, so that was in Jeremiah 13:23, and it says, "Can the Ethiopian change his skin, or the leopard his spots? Then you also can do good, uh, who are accustomed to doing evil. You also can do good, who are accustomed to doing evil." Yeah. So that quite literally is Jeremiah, not Solomon, Jeremiah, a Jew, making reference to Ethiopians having a very specific skin color that was different than the Jewish skin color.
Hmm.
So, no, the Hebrews were not black. Just silly. It's like there's just no point in having that be a centralized issue, but that is their entire religion. Which is the same thing with Rastafarian. It was like the Jamaican Bob Marley religion, where they teach that Jesus was black. He died only for black people, and he is the African Messiah. It's like,
Sounds like Black Santa Claus.
what was that?
I said it sounds like Black Santa Claus.
It is basically, I think that's what led to Black Santa Claus.
Yeah.
The Santa came from Odin, which was Thor's dad in Norse mythology.
Well, there's
In
also
terms
another
of,
thing for like saint, like like what is it? It was a saint.
St. Nicholas.
St. Nicholas. Thank you.
Mhm.
My brain
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah. The name came from him, but the actual every aspect of Santa, um, in terms of him being the jolly elf who rides on reindeer and stuff like that, that was all Odin, who was a white Viking, like the whitest of the white. Like I have that is part of my ancestry, the whitest of the white, Santa. So funny. Okay, any other religion? But yeah, that one is a very stupid religion and is purely just black supremacy. It is just racism.
yeah.
I have a question that doesn't do with the
Yes.
religion. So
Deal.
if Joseph doesn't have any other ones, I
No,
have
I can't.
some.
I can't think of any right now.
So we're going through Judges, or I'm going through Judges with another group, and we came to Judges 19, where it talks about pretty much Sodom and Gomorrah, but prior to Sodom or after Sodom and Gomorrah. Judges 19:22. It's the whole like 19:22 through what is it? To the end of the chapter. We don't have to read the whole thing if you
Okay.
want to, but
For context, it would probably be good. So let's go. Starting in verse 22, you said?
yeah.
All right.
Judges 22.
Yes.
Judges
Or
19.
Judges 19:22.
Oh, got it.
Let's
It's a
see
little
here. They were
dark.
making their hearts merry, and behold, the men of the city, certain vile fellows, surrounded the house, pounding at the door. They spoke to the owner of the house, the old man, saying, Bring out the man who came into your house, that we may know him. Then the man, the owner of the house, went out to them and said to them, No, my brothers, please do not do evil, since this man has come into my house. Do not commit this disgraceful act. Behold, my daughter, who is a virgin, and his concubine. Um, please, no, sorry. My eyes are getting messed up here. Behold, my daughter, who is a virgin, and his concubine. Please let me bring them out, that you may violate them, um, and do to them whatever is good in your eyes. But do not commit such a disgraceful act against this man. But the men were not willing to listen. So the man took hold of his concubine and brought her out to them. And they knew her and abused her all night until morning. And they let her go at the breaking of dawn. As the day began, as the day began to dawn, the woman came and fell down at the doorway of the man's house where her master was until full daylight. Then her master arose in the morning and opened the doors of the house and went out to go on his way. And behold, the woman, his concubine, was laying at his doorway of the house with her hands on the threshold. And he said to her, Get up, let us go. But there was no answer. Then he took her on a donkey. The man arose and went to his home. Then he entered his house and took a knife and took hold of his concubine and cut her into 12 pieces, limb by limb, and sent her through the territory of Israel. And all who saw it said, Nothing like this has ever happened or been seen from the day since the sons of Israel came up from the land of Egypt to this day. Consider it, take counsel, and speak up. What is your
Not
question?
exactly, not exactly the most pleasant thing, but
Horribly unpleasant. What is
yes,
your question?
we generally get just a blanket of what happened.
Which this one isn't Sodom and Gomorrah.
No, I know.
Okay.
I said it. I was referring that it's like Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yes.
But while I understand that it's not like none of it's okay, nobody like actually agreed with it, but my group was like really dragging on the man. Now, don't get me wrong, like being scared, it's not okay to do it all, but I'm not trying to defend. I don't know. I don't really know how to just say it. I I feel like he's also mad, hate, like whatnot, because he went to the length of cutting her up and sending pieces of her out because of his anger, emotions behind it. Like, this is not okay, kind of a thing. I don't know. That's something that like I get from it, even though like it says that he put her out there, but I don't know. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes. So, yes, he was upset, but what he did was absolutely evil.
Right. No, I
It,
do agree with that.
there is no excuse for that where the Bible is explained, even though like that was his concubine, which would be a mistress, which means that that was not his wife. He was cheating or had multiple wives, essentially.
He also was cheating. So,
Yes.
not saying it's any better, but
But yeah, but still, yeah. So he's doing something disgusting where he's offering her to these guys who literally rape her to death. And so
I
back
guess
then they don't have
my
like
thing,
what was that?
he was in another man's house as well.
He was at another man's house or they were at
Yeah.
his house?
No, he was at another man's house. And I almost wonder, but I don't know for sure. Because he's trying, like, so all of I think 19, where he goes to the concubine's father's house, um and he the father like talks him into staying for a few days, and then one evening he decides to leave. They don't make it to their home, and so then they stop in uh Geb Gebna Geb Geba, and this older man accepts taking them in and also states like, I'll take care of everything for you. And then that's who's talking to the guys outside. Like, he's the one talking to the guys, and he's the one who states, "I have a daughter, and I have this guy's concubine." Like, have his concubine instead of knowing him.
So were they trying to rape him?
Yeah, they were trying to rape the man, the man of the concubine.
Interesting, because bring out the man who came into your house that we may know him. Then the man. No, it says that the man, the owner of the house, went out to them and said no.
Yes. But then that's also when he offers up his daughters instead, his daughter and the concubine.
Yes.
So my wonder, which I don't think there's really an answer, like the man who has the concubine didn't have much of a say. He's not in his own house, he's in somebody else's house. Like, I don't know.
Interesting.
I know that no matter what, you should still be standing up for. And
100%. If I'm in someone else's house and they want my wife or whatever to go have that happen, no, I'm gonna die that night.
Right. I'm just wondering if like I'm not wondering like for an answer, but just like in general, like if the culture is kind of different, like yes, he still did wrong. I'm not saying anything about like trying to argue that, but like if the culture is different and you don't disrespect people that you go into their house, kind of a thing.
Yeah, which
this is kind of like a train of thought.
the kind of mindset in their culture was that if someone came into your house, then their lives were exclusively your responsibility to protect. However, this violates that rule because one of the visitors coming into the house, if that be the case, they throw out the visitor instead of protecting. So he's even violating that.
Mhm.
So horrible. But yeah. Yeah, so it was the owner of the house who took the man's concubine, took the visitor's concubine, pushed her outside. So horrible. This is one of the hardest things in the Bible to read, which I need to read. We shouldn't have started at verse 22.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Then we pretty much would have been reading most of chapter 19.
Exactly. So let's back that up and let's do that real quick. It's going back to verse 1. Because the entire purpose of this is they're wanting to go to war with the Benjamites. And then they used her getting executed, or they used her getting raped to death as an excuse of like, hey, now we can go to war because they've done this. So verse 1, now it happened in those days when there was no king of Israel, that there was a certain Levite sojourning in the remote part of the hill country of Ephraim, who took a concubine for himself from Bethlehem in Judah. But his concubine played the harlot against him, and she went away from him to her father's house in Bethlehem in Judah, and uh, was there for a good period of 4 months. Then her husband arose and went after her to speak to her heart in order to bring her back. And his young man was with him as well as a pair of donkeys. And his young man was with him as well as a pair. Do we know what that means? Saying that his young man was with him.
Mm-mm. But it also goes from concubine to husband.
Yes. That's interesting. So let's see here. So it says that he's there with his young man and a pair of donkeys.
Does he
That's
have like another servant that he's with?
or a son? Like that's what I want to check on this. So Judges 18 verse 3. Let me pull this up in the blue letter.
Does it also refer to the concubine's father
19
as
verse 3.
father-in-law to him?
Interesting.
And then further down it says son-in-law.
Okay, let's see here. I'll pull this to a different translation to try to see what it says comparatively. But her husband set out to Bethlehem to speak personally to her to persuade her to come back, and he took with him a servant and a pair of donkeys. Okay, so the young man is a servant. When he arrived at her father's house, her father saw him and welcomed him. So whenever she fled, she went to her father's house. Okay. So the husband then would be the son-in-law. So whenever it's referring to her as a concubine, then that could be in this terminology. Let me confirm this with the Hebrew and make sure. But I'm pretty certain that it is going to be a concubine could be indicative of like a additional wife or a mistress. So it wouldn't be like his actual wife, it would be he married more.
His second kind of thing.
Yeah, second or 15th, whatever. They did a lot of bad back then. Um, I've been on the verge of sneezing for like the past like 3 minutes, so I apologize for the sniffling and the pain face.
I'm sorry. That's terrible.
Oh, it's just right there. It's just sitting right there. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, that word there is Isha. It can mean a woman, a wife, a female, a woman opposed or opposite of a man, a wife married to a man, a female animal, um, each, every as a pronoun. So concubine might not be the most accurate translation for this word right here.
Hmm.
So this could have been his wife, but it does say that she played the harlot, so she cheated on him.
Hmm.
Oh, he was getting revenge. Okay, so let's hear.
What?
He might have been getting revenge by putting her out as like she cheated on me. That so he could have just been very hateful towards her in the first place. But okay, so starting that over. Now it happened in those days that there was no king in Israel. Um, uh, when there was no king in Israel, that there was a certain Levi sojourning in the remote part of the hill country of Ephraim, who took a concubine for himself from Bethlehem in Judah. But his concubine, wife, played the harlot against him, and she went away from him to her father's house in Bethlehem in Judah, and was there for a period of 4 months. Then her husband arose and went after her to speak to her heart in order to bring her back. And his young man, his servant, was with him as well as a pair of donkeys. So she brought him into her father's house, and the girl's father saw him and was glad to meet him. And his father-in-law, the girl's father, so yes, this is his wife, prevailed upon him, and he remained with him for 3 days. So they ate and drank and spent the night there. Now it happened on the fourth day that they got up early in the morning, and he arose to go. And the girl's father said to his son-in-law, sustain yourself with a piece of bread, and afterward you may go. So both of them sat down, ate and drank together. And the girl's father said to the man, please be willing to spend the night and let your heart be merry. The man arose to go, but his father-in-law pressed him so that he turned back and spent the night there. And on the fifth day, he arose to go early in the morning. And the girl's father said, please sustain yourself and wait until afternoon. So both of them ate. Then the man arose to go along with his concubine, and the young man and his father-in-law, the girl's father, said to him, behold, now the day has drawn to a close. Please spend the night. Behold, this dude's creepy. The dad's just wanting him to stay the night all the time. It's weird.
Yeah.
Behold, the day is coming to an end. Spend the night here so that your heart may be merry. Then tomorrow you may arise early for your journey so that you may go to your tent. But the man was not willing to spend the night. So he arose and went and came to a place before Jebus, that is Jerusalem. And there were with him a pair of saddled donkeys. His concubine also was with him. They were alongside of Jebus, and the day was almost gone. And the young man said to his master, come, please, let us turn aside into the city of the Jebusites and spend the night. However, his master said to him, we will not turn aside into the city of foreigners who are not of the sons of Israel, but will pass on until Gibeah. Then he said to the young man, "Come and let us draw near to one of these places. We will spend the night in Gibeah or in Ramah." So they passed along and went. So they passed along and went their way, and the sun set on them near Gibeah, which belongs to Benjamin. Then they turned aside in order to enter. Uh, then they turned aside there in order to enter and spend the night in Gibeah. So they entered and sat down in the open square of the city. No one was talking to them into his house. No one was, sorry, my eyes are horrible right now. Allergies are killing every aspect of this. Um, no one was taking them into his house to spend the night. But behold, an old man coming from his work from his field that evening. Now the man was from the hill country of Ephraim, and he was sojourning in Gibeah. But the men of the place of the Benjamites, but the men of the place were Benjamites. And he lifted up his eyes and saw the traveler in the open square of the city. And the old man said, "Where are you going, and where do you come from?" And he said to him, "We are passing from Bethlehem in Judea to the remote parts of the hill country in Ephraim. I am from there, and I went to Benjamin in Judah. But I am now going to the house of Yahweh, and no man is taking me into his house. Yet there is both straw and fodder for our donkeys, and also bread and wine for me. Your maidservant and the young man who is with your servants, there is no lack of anything." Then the old man said, "Peace be to you. Only let me take care of all that you lack. However, do not spend the night in the open square." So he brought into his house and gave donkeys fodder and washed their feet and ate and drank. They were making their hearts merry, and behold, the men of the city, certain vile fellows, surrounded the house, pounding on the doors. And they spoke to the owner of the house, the old man, saying, "Bring out the man who came into your house, that we may know him." Great.
Mine says know him carnally.
Yeah, mine says carnally also. I have New King James.
Interesting.
Same.
Same concept. That
Yeah.
word for to know within the same category means to put your wiener in.
Yeah.
Um, see here that word specifically.
If it says wiener in there, please let me know.
It is yada. So it is H3045. Um, and it could be to know, to learn, to perceive as, to find out, to discern, to discriminate, to distinguish, to know, experience, recognize, admit, acknowledge, confess, to consider, to know, be acquainted, to know. So it could mean literally to know. Then the other meanings of it could be made known, to reveal, to be perceived, to be instructed, to declare, to know oneself, to reveal oneself, cause to know. So it has it all within that same category. None of this specifically mentions it as being sexual,
Uh,
which is weird that it doesn't express that in this.
you said 3045.
Yes.
This is a long one in my book.
Because yeah, this is the exact same term that's used whenever it says that Adam knew his wife and they bore Cain and Abel, and it says that Cain knew his wife and she bore Enoch. It's the same exact terminology. Yada.
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 Yeah, duh.
Real quick, I'm gonna go blow my nose because holy mother. Allergies are fun. What'd you find?
There's a lot of no.
Hmm.
I mean, just briefly going through it, I don't see it, but
Okay.
this is also going into all three columns. So starts here, goes down this entire column, and then goes to here. So
Wow.
I'm not reading every single.
Yeah, no, that's
right
fine.
now.
We know what it means.
So
It's just interesting that it's not specifically saying wiener. So that's just disappointing on that end.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Resuming back to basically where we started the first time. Um, then the man, the owner of the house, went out to them and said to them, "No, my brothers, please do not do evil. Since this man has come into my house, do not commit this disgraceful act. Behold, my daughter, who is a virgin, and his wife, please let me bring them out to you so you may violate them." And now I want to see what the word violate is. Anah.
Oh no.
Says to be occupied or busy with, to afflict, oppress, humble, be afflicted, to be bowed down, to be put down, become low, depressed, downcast, afflicted, stooped, humbled oneself, bowed down, be afflicted, humbled, mishandled, humiliated, afflicted. None of these would say rape, as I would assume it was going to have that said there too. But
um,
no,
ours says humble them and do with them as you please.
that sounds worse than rape. Um, yeah, so this one says violate them and do whatever is good in your eyes. So let me check out.
A little further, it does say that they knew her and abused her all night until morning.
Yes.
Hmm.
You're looking
Yeah.
at
NLT.
oh,
I was just going different translation to see what it would say. NLT says, "I can bring them out to you, and you can abuse them and do whatever you like."
what's the I guess I'm kind of curious on how it is in here. What's the number for it?
Let me pull it back up. Six zero three one.
Are the numbers just so you can find them easier or something?
Yeah, they're so the kind of interlinear comparison is based on something that is known as Strong's manuscript.
Hmm.
So this is like Strong's subcategory of how he like listed them. So if we were to say like that this is Hebrew word, sorry, Hebrew word number 6031.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, the very first thing that it says on here in the first section, this word, uh, common to both ancient and modern Hebrew, is the source of several important words in the history of uh, I don't know. Goes to say humble, meek, poor, and affliction specifically.
Interesting. This did have afflict on there. But yeah, this puts it to a full
Oh.
phrase.
Um, the fifth section, to take a woman sexually by force, maybe to humble her.
Sexually by
Also
force, I
refer
think would be the
It talks about Genesis 34:2 with it.
Interesting. Well, it means bad things. So
Yeah.
let's see here. Um, but do not commit such a disgraceful act against this man. Um, but the men were not willing to listen to him. So the man took hold of the other man's wife. Is that right? But the men were not willing to listen to him. So the man, still the man that owns the house, took hold of his concubine, the other man's concubine, and brought her out to them. And they knew her and abused her all night long until morning, and they let her go at the break of dawn. And as day began, the woman came and fell down at the doorway of the man's house where her master was until full daylight. Then her master arose in the morning and opened the doors of the house and went out to go on his way. And behold, the woman, his concubine, was lying in the doorway of the house, and her hands were on the threshold. And he said to her, "Get up, let us go." There was no answer. And he took the donkey. The man arose and went to his home. Then he entered his house and took a knife and took hold of his concubine and cut her into 12 pieces, limb by limb. And he sent her throughout the territories of Israel. And all who saw it said, "Nothing like this has ever happened or been seen from the day when the sons of Israel came up from the land of Egypt to this day. Consider it, take counsel, speak up." So, yes. So that was the visiting man's wife that the owner of the house gave out to the people. And yeah, so he let it happen. So it was either him or his wife, and he allowed her to go out instead of him. And they raped her to death. That is absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think that there's any excuse on that whatsoever. He was a coward, and that's absolutely heinous.
Why did he cut her into pieces and divide her out? I don't understand that part.
So like today we have rape kits. So whenever something brutal happens, we can take pictures of it. We can get DNA swabs, evidence to actually show what happened. With that, the indication of the 12 parts of her body is he had one for each of the 12 tribes to show the amount of damage on her body. So, like, that was the evidence that the Benjamites did, like, literally beat her to death while raping her.
Oh man.
So, it doesn't give you details on what they did to her specifically. I'm
But they
happy about that.
yeah.
But yeah, if he did that to send her body parts as evidence, we can assume that, my goodness, that was, yeah.
This goes back, I think, to when Jacob was. I know I had talked about it in the group chat where Jacob was like blessing his sons, but it was like more like prophecies where he calls Benjamin ravenous wolves and all that.
Yes,
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Like
that
why
would
he's
make perfect sense with that.
yeah. Oh
Very
man.
interesting. That one I still need to look into deeper,
Mhm.
but this lines up with that 100%.
Yeah.
Horrible, horrible, horrible.
Also gives you a slight glimpse of Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Because Lot didn't actually he wanted to, but he didn't like
Yeah, the
actually.
angels blinded the rapists. And instead of the rapist then going home, they tried to get into the house even harder.
This morning I woke up and I saw a meme about Sodom and Gomorrah, and man, I can't believe people like defend the people who live there. Man, they just don't know like this story or like
Who
the
defends
city
it?
literally, huh?
Who defends them?
Oh, like like liberals, or they're like, oh, they were just gay. What was wrong with that? And it's like, no, 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 they were rapists,
Yep, they
and
were a little bit more than just gay.
yeah, there's a bunch of stuff.
There's gay, and then there's a violent gay rapist. There's
Gay rapists.
very, very different levels of really bad right there.
You know, the city's called Sodom. Come on, man.
Well,
Like,
that's kind of where we got that word from.
oh, it's from there. Okay, I thought
Mm.
that they literally named their city that. I was like, oh man.
They named their city Forced Butt Stuff. That's
Yeah.
what. Yeah, no. We get that word sodomy and sodomite from that as the reference point to it. That's like the etymology of those words is relating it to being that gay rape,
Hmm.
which is gross and horrible. And that's hilarious. Like, I would love that so much if we would name cities like that.
Yeah, right.
It's like they lived in a place called butt stuff. Like, what would you expect them to do there? Oh, that's awesome.
Wow, why'd you move there, man? Like,
You knew what was going to happen. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, that's really funny. But yeah, it is a parallel to Sodom and Gomorrah. Definitely very weird, very, very interesting with that.
well, but
But I guess
in Sodom and Gomorrah, they were like they were like super gay because they're like, no, we don't want them. We want those guys. Like,
exactly.
I,
Which the
I was
guys that were in the houses were angels. So I
yeah,
was, which kind of connects over where maybe that's why they defended guests in their houses so much.
hmm
That could literally be the reasoning why they had that kind of tradition in Judaism. Because even going into like in Hebrews where it says always be kind to strangers because you never know when you've entertained an angel, that
Oh,
was that's kind of in reference to when you're entertaining strangers or that entertainment of an angel. It's not necessarily like a stranger that you come across on the street within the context, but it's more so like if there's a traveler coming through to like house them, to host them. So that could be the kind of principle that they had of if this person staying in my house is an angel, I need to protect them.
hmm.
Which even in that, just no, but I don't think it's okay to offer the women out there. That's
Yeah.
horrible.
hmm
Well, we eventually went more onto the fact of how grateful we are that God has raised women to be above, considering where they were considered.
Yes.
So,
Not in the Middle East. In the Middle East, there's still men, house cat, woman.
well, but like, yes, the Middle East
Yeah.
may still be similar to that, but God still raised
Yes.
what what women are supposed to be, kind of a thing.
Yes, I agree.
Whether people actually do what they're supposed to do is one thing.
Okay, so going into Judges chapter 20, because it is like the continuance of the story. Uh, verse 4. So the Levite, the husband of the woman who was murdered, answered and said, they asked where this evil took place. And he said, I came with my concubine to spend the night in Gibeah, which belongs to Benjamin. Then the men of Gibeah rose up against me and surrounded the house at night because of me. They intended to kill me. Instead, they violated my concubine and she died. And I seized my concubine, I cut her into pieces and sent her through the land of Israel's inheritance. For for they have committed a lewd and disgraceful act in Israel. Behold, all you sons of Israel, give your advice and counsel here. Then all the people arose as one man, saying, not one of us will go to his tent, nor will any of us turn aside to his house. Now this is the thing which we will do to Gibeah. We will go up against it by lot. And we will take 10 men out of 100 throughout the tribes of Israel, and 100 out of 1,000, and 1,000 out of 10,000, in order to take up provisions for the people, that when they come to Gibeah of Benjamin, they may do to them all the disgraceful acts that they have done in Israel. Thus all the men of Israel were gathered against the city, united as one man. And the tribes of Israel sent men through the entire tribe of Benjamin, saying, what is this evil that has taken place among you? So now give up the men, the vile fellows in Gibeah, that we may put them to death and purge this evil from Israel. But the sons of Benjamin were not willing to listen to the voice of their brothers, the sons of Israel. Then the sons of Benjamin gathered from the cities to Gibeah to go out to battle against the sons of Israel. And from the cities on that day, the sons of Benjamin were numbered 26,000 men, who draw the sword, besides the inhabitants of Gibeah, who were numbered 700 choice men. Out of all of these people, 700 choice men were left-handed. Each one, out of all these people, 700 choice men were left-handed. Each one could sling a stone at a hair and not miss. And the men of Israel, besides Benjamin, were numbered 400,000 men who drew the sword. All these were men of war. Then the sons of Israel arose, went up to Bethel, and asked God and said, who shall go up for us to begin the battle against the sons of Benjamin? Then Yahweh said, Judah shall begin it. So the sons of Israel arose in the morning and camped against Gibeah. And the men went, and the men of Israel went out to battle against Benjamin. And the men of Israel arranged themselves for battle against them at Gibeah. Then the sons of Benjamin came out of Gibeah and destroyed to the ground on that day 22,000 men of Israel. But the people, the men of Israel, strengthened themselves and arranged themselves for battle in the place where they had arranged themselves the first day. And the sons of Israel went up and wept before Yahweh until evening, and asked Yahweh, saying, shall we again approach for battle against the sons of my brother Benjamin? And Yahweh said, go up against them. Then the sons of Israel drew near to the sons of Benjamin the second day. And Benjamin went out to meet them from Gibeah the second day, and destroyed to the ground again 18,000 men of the sons of Israel. All these drew the sword. Then the sons of Israel and all the people went up and came to Bethel and wept. Thus they remained there before Yahweh and fasted that day until evening. And they burnt offerings, and they offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before Yahweh. Then the sons of Israel asked Yahweh. Now the Ark of the Covenant of God was there in those days, and Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, Aaron's son, stood before it to minister in those days, saying, shall I yet again go out to battle against the sons of my brother Benjamin, or shall I cease? And Yahweh said, go up, for tomorrow I will give them into your hand. So Israel set men in ambush around Gibeah. The sons of Israel went up against the sons of Benjamin on the third day and arrayed themselves against Gibeah as at other times. So the sons of Benjamin went out to meet the people and were drawn away from the city, and they began to strike and slay some of the people as at other times on the highways. one of which goes up to Bethel, and the other to Gibeah. And in the field, about 30 men of Israel. The sons of Benjamin said, they are defeated before us as at the first. But the sons of Israel said, let us flee that we may draw them away from the city to the highways. Then all the men of Israel arose from the place and arrayed themselves at Baal Tamar. And the men of Israel in ambush burst forth of their place, even out of, that's a big word, Merageba. Then 10,000 choice men from all Israel came against Gibeah, and the battle became heavy, but Benjamin did not know that calamity was about to reach them. And Yahweh defeated Benjamin before Israel, so that the sons of Israel destroyed 25,100 men of Benjamin that day, all who drew the sword. So the sons of Benjamin saw that they were defeated. Now the men of Israel had given ground to Benjamin because they had relied on the men in ambush, whom they'd set against Gibeah. So the men in ambush hurried and rushed against Gibeah. Then the men in ambush deployed and struck all the city with the edge of the sword. Now the appointed sign between the men of Israel and the men in ambush was that they would make a great cloud of smoke rise from the city. So the men of Israel had turned around in the battle, and Benjamin had begun to strike and slay about 30 men of Israel. For they said, surely they are defeated before us, as in the first battle. But the cloud began to rise from the city in a column of smoke, and Benjamin turned behind them, and behold, the whole city was going up in smoke to heaven. Then the men of Israel turned around again, and the men of Benjamin were dismayed, for they saw that calamity had reached them. Therefore, they turned their backs before the men of Israel towards the direction of the wilderness, but the battle overtook them, and those who came out of the cities destroyed them in the midst of them. They surrounded Benjamin, pursued them without rest, and trod them down opposite Gibeah to the east towards the sunrise. Thus 18,000 men of Benjamin fell. All these were valiant men. Interesting. And they rested and the rest turned and fled towards the wilderness to the rock of Rimmon. But they caught 5,000 of them on the highway and overtook them at Gidom and struck 2,000 down. So all of Benjamin who fell that day were 25,000 men who drew the sword. All these were valiant men. But 600 men turned and fled towards the wilderness to the rock of Rimmon, and they remained at the rock of Rimmon for 4 months. Now the men of Israel returned to the sons of Benjamin and struck them with the edge of the sword, both the entire city with the cattle and all that they found. They also set on fire all of the cities which they found. Interesting.
Oh, wow.
Does your guys' translate the word valiant?
Men of valor.
Mhm.
Yeah, so this is saying force, army. So they were all warriors.
Yeah, valiant warriors is another alternative that it says.
Interesting. Crazy. Yeah, so because he sent the body parts away, that was the evidence that they needed to go to war. All of that to say that.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how strong you are if you don't have God with you. Doesn't matter.
Yes. David and Goliath.
Yeah.
that's still a bad thing he did, right? Cutting the pieces, like he didn't have to do all that, right?
That part of what he did didn't matter.
Hmm.
It was him allowing his wife to be thrown out while he was peacefully sleeping inside while she was getting raped to death. That was the bad part. Him cutting
Yeah,
up a dead body. Dead bodies are dead bodies.
yeah, it's true.
It's nothing.
They
Um,
technically aren't supposed to touch the dead.
correct, but that would make him ceremonially unclean, where he could not offer sacrifices under the Mosaic law.
Right.
For like
So
a
it
week,
wouldn't,
right? Something.
yeah, yeah, it wouldn't technically be like a sinful thing for him to touch the dead body. Because I mean, there was always people who had to touch the dead bodies. That's how they like moved them and buried them and got rid of them. So it wasn't a sin to touch them, but it's definitely a disturbing thought to think about someone cutting up their dead wife.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
super disturbing, super creepy.
Yeah,
But that in and of itself was not necessarily the bad thing. It
mhm.
was that was the only way that he could provide evidence to the other tribes that Benjamin did something so heinous.
Yeah, I was thinking about the spiritually unclean or ritually unclean thing. Because like I know you're not supposed to touch anybody who's on their period uh or sick people either, you know? And I know like Jesus was doing that, like he healed somebody who was bleeding for like years.
Yes,
But that like that's not sin. That's just like ceremonially
correct. Yeah, so anytime that you had blood on your hands, that would be that you were ceremonially unclean so that you could not offer in that condition a sacrifice to God.
yeah,
But yeah,
those like a lot of stuff.
with the menstruation part though that it's talking about, it is that one's debated on. That's in Leviticus chapter 18. Um, and that is saying like do not have sex while she's on her period, not don't touch her at all while she's on her period. It's not like
So,
it's like she's like I'm on my period, I'm sad, I want snuggles. It's like nope, we can't even snuggles because of that. But there is debate on whether or not that was because of a cleansly or a cleanliness thing, or if that was actually a moral thing. So people side on that in different ways.
hmm.
But yeah, very interesting. All right, it is late now. We've been going at this for 2 hours. That's pretty good for us only having three people.
Yeah.
But awesome. Any other question before we wrap it up?
I don't got anything.
Natasha, any questions?
Nope.
Nope. All right. Well, then perfect. Then plan on next week,
Alrighty.
Sounds like fun.
and hopefully we will have an actual subject to study on. This was fun because we're just bouncing around. It's entertaining, but but yeah, hopefully next time we'll have like a legitimate like this is the subject of the thing, and then we can bounce around from it. But
You can
but
also
perfect.
put um a post out more than a day ahead.
I am busy. I'm trying, and I'll have to put cough drop. Um,
You can also
perfect.
do it in the group chat too. I
Yes,
just
I should actually do that. That seems easier instead of doing it as the post. But yeah, I'll do that way. That'd be easier.
well, one of us can also do it.
Oh, I
But I
gotcha.
just was just figuring you would post those to just like the black level and up.
Yeah, for the black level and up is where I post the link, but the other one I post where just everyone can see like, hey, that there's going to be a Bible study more so that if someone is like in the lower level and they're like, oh, that's an interesting subject, I would like to go on to that, and then they can decide if they want to join there or just stay where they are.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll start doing it in the chat though, because that will probably get quicker answers. But all right, perfect. Well, you guys have a wonderful night.
Yeah, yeah. God bless you guys.
You as
Thank you.
well. It was fun. See you guys.
See you.